Hi Sean, it's Dave here. Hope you're okay.
Hiya.
Can I just start with the team news, please, to start with? Has everyone come through okay over the last few days?
Yeah, we're pretty good at the minute, which is good news. Virgin Dale Stings, he's not ready yet. He needs some game time, but he's back on the grass training with us regularly. That's good. Aaron Evans got a bit of illness, so we'll wait and see if he's available. But everyone else is looking good.
And for Dale, he's back on the grass. How long do you think it will take for him to join in with the group?
First of all, we need to say, no, he's joining with the group. It's just game time now, so we need to see when he's ready for the games, do a bit of building up to that point. But he's getting stronger all the time, so he's back with the group training regularly and normally, if you like. The next stage is to get him into game time, as in reserve games and stuff to build him up.
Sure. If I can ask about Nick Pope as well, we spoke to him a little bit earlier on this morning, and he was talking about getting himself back to form, basically, since the injury. What do you make of his recent performances? I know he was standout really against Tottenham and made a couple of key saves against Brentford. What do you make of his form?
Yeah, I think he's been terrific. I think he's a terrific keeper around anyway. He wasn't far off, but he'd been out a while and getting that real sharpness. And I think that's back. I think he's been performing well. Top keeper, simple as that in my view.
There's obviously lots of competition, particularly at international level, but do you think he's back to the sort of level he was pre-injury now? Yeah,
I certainly think so. He continues to get his eye in and the detail within his performances, but I think he's, the way he's been performing the last few games, I think he's made really important saves, as you mentioned, but not just at the basics of his game, reading the game, and coming out across, which obviously he does so well. And the confidence to do that, and he's back on that level as well. So it's not always the glamour stuff you see in goalkeepers, which of course is vital when they make big saves. It's also the basics and how they're doing them, and I think he's doing that very well.
And he also talked about his future at the club as well. So he says he sees his long-term future at Burnley. Says it's an exciting time to be at the club. New owners, new exciting signings. Does it please you to hear that?
Yeah, I think it's always pleasing when you've got your top end of your playing market with us, and certainly that. When they want to be here, they enjoy being here. They can see the progress that's being made. They're well aware, they keep up with what's going on at the club. So it's like still a process. It's not about just throwing money everywhere. It's about how we can keep layering up. But I think him and a few of the players have noticed that the players we brought in are effective, and they are beginning to affect the group and rub off on the group. And I think players want to see that. It's not just me. Fans want to see it, of course, but players want to see that, their own group. That newness, that edge, and also players who they start to look at and think, yeah, I think you can add to what we do here, and I think that's important.
Other international-wise, Wayne Hennessy, Connor Roberts in the Wales squad. Are you comfortable with someone like Connor, who's obviously come back from injury, that he's good to play 2 games in 3-4 days for Wales?
Well, he's certainly a very fit type of lad. We know that. He went away and played some minutes the last time round, which I thought was maybe a bit quick. But once they got international, it's not my decision. And this time round, he's had more training, of course. He's had a game for us as well. So I think he's better equipped. And he's done very well for us. He did very well in the game. I think he's doing very well in what we do here at the training ground as well.
Chelsea this weekend. I guess you go into this one with confidence. I mean, your performance levels have been good anyway, but to get that first victory, has there been an extra bounce around the place? And are you going into this Chelsea game fully confident?
Yeah, I mean, look, you have to be reality bound in the Premier League. It's not easy winning games. It's not something that happens all the time. There are challenges in the Premier League, and it's when your teams like us, you do lose some games, and that's hard to take. But there has to be a consistency within who you are, what you do, as well as the professional side of it. I think we have a nice balance to that. And then when the wins come around, of course, they just add to the feel-good factor. I think we try and keep a positive place here anyway, with the players and the staff and the way that we operate. But of course, you get a win and a deserved win, and then that adds to that, and it adds to that feeling of what it is to be an individual in football, but also a team in football. So it's definitely there, but I do think we're a positive sort of thinking unit, regardless of what the challenges are. But it does add to it when you win games, of course.
I think the last time you beat Chelsea was August 2017. It was a bit of a crazy, bonkers game from what I remember of it. It was Antonio Conte in charge then, and now he's back in the Premier League with Tottenham. You're going to be playing them at the end of the month, and you obviously played a Nuno team not so long ago as well. How do you think a Conte Tottenham team will evolve, given your previous experience against Conte teams?
We'll see. I mean, he's obviously excelled as a manager. We all know that. His record says that. Did fantastically well at Chelsea in the first season, of course. And I mean, I don't know. He might change. He might operate in a different way. I'm sure managers have a way that they think they should operate, but he might look at the group differently to the groups had previously. So I think it'd be interesting to see if he does change, as in tactical change, because obviously at Chelsea did the three at the back a lot. If he decides different, learning about the players, I'm sure he'll know a lot of the players, but learning about when you work closely with them, and they're rubbing off on the way he thinks is necessary. And he's already mentioned about that calmness and stability. So I would imagine that's his first port of call, as he said. And then suss out the players. But he's worked with many, many good players, so I think he will work them out for the best thing that he can do with them.
He likes the celebration as well. We've seen him running down the touchline, jumping in the crowd. I just wonder whether you could. I was going to say, I wonder whether you could ever do that yourself.
No, to be honest, everyone has their own style. I haven't knocked any manager that I've worked against, played against, who I know. My teams have played against. But everyone has their own style. I have mine. It suits me. Everyone has their own way of doing it. I'm not judging anyone. Simple as that.
I think when Thomas Tuchel took over at Chelsea, he got his first victory in charge against you. How do you think that they have moved on since then, obviously winning the Champions League? Are they, do you think, a more slick machine now, Chelsea, than they were perhaps in January?
I think they're using good players wisely. They've got very, very good players. They've got a very, very strong squad. I think everyone knows that, and I think he's finding a way of using them the wisest he can. And so far, it's showing how strong they are. They were the ones who come out the situation, kind of spent a real lot of money to strengthen. I know they've been in an embargo before that, but and that investment as well as the coaching idea and how they're doing that, it looks like it's paying off. I thought Frank was doing a good job personally, but not for me to decide what happens at these football clubs. But new managers definitely have an effect. That's fair to say, and they're a good outfit without a shadow of a doubt.
Maxwell Cornet, I just want to ask you about him as well. He did an interview with Sky where he said his idol was Didier Drogba. Obviously, different type of players, but would you like a Drogba-esque performance from Maxwell this weekend?
Yeah, I don't think you can have the same performance because they are radically different in their stature and their physique and the way they play. But Drogba's a fantastic player, without a doubt. The physical presence that he had, but also the talent and the performance. And I think players like that have matured into a team player as well. So, yeah, look, Maxwell's enjoying his football here. We want him to continue to do that. He's understanding by the day, how we work and how we operate, and the players rubbing off on him and him rubbing off on them. So far, it's a good mixture. So we want that to continue.
Thanks, Sean. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks, David. Becky Ives, are you on?
I am indeed. Let me just find the old. There we go. Hello.
Hiya.
Hiya. I'm good. How are you, Sean?
Splendid.
Good. Right, let's talk about Matt Lawton, because very impressive last weekend, popping up in the box.
Lawton,
sorry.
No, I think he told me it's his dad that doesn't like it, so it's Lawton.
There we go, correct.
Yeah, we call him Louts, but apparently I think it's his dad doesn't like that. It's Loats.
Got it, Loats. Well, let's talk about Loats popping up in the box with a goal. I mean, assists as well. Is this something that we can expect to see with him pushing slightly higher up and maybe contributing going forward?
Yeah, hopefully not. Obviously, that often. That wouldn't probably be better for a season's work. But it's nice when the picture looks right. He made a great run forwards. And once you're in there, as long as the team are balanced behind that, which I think they were, then of course you want players to score from anywhere in the pitch. Certainly assist-wise, he's a very talented player. I still think he can add to more assists and some of the passing range he's got, which he does do, but I think he could continue to add to that. And getting forwards, because he is a very good player. He sees the picture well. He's talented with the ball technically, and I think he can still improve. And, I think the added competition or competitive element with Connor coming in, and of course Bardo, who's a seasoned campaigner, a very good pro, then I think, that's a good mixture.
Well, I was going to ask you, do you think he plays better under pressure with competition?
Well, the concept that I've spoken about on here and when we talk about recruitment is subliminal pressure. So it's not that players don't necessarily, drive up and down when they come to training, worrying and thinking it over, every day. But it's just like that training pressure when you realise good players are around you, and it just adds on to your performance level. Because obviously, if it doesn't add on to your performance level, then you don't stay in the team. It's a simple equation. But I don't mean they just sit there talking about it. I think there's that sort of inner voice inside of yourself when you're a professional footballer. When there's players around you coming in, and you look at them and you think they're decent players, then I think that just gives you that little extra edge in your training, that little extra edge in performances. But like I said, I don't think it's something that you're always that aware of. I played long enough myself. It's just like a subliminal thing when you just think, right, okay, I need to be on my toes. And then, you've got to perform well.
And Chris Wood getting a goal, ending his little mini dry spell, we'll call it. Is he a confidence player? So now he's got one. Do you expect them to sort of flow?
All players are confidence players of some sort. Some just hold their levels a bit higher for longer. I think Wood is a very, very good finisher. I think he's a very good all-round player. It's tough. It's tough for centre forwards in the Premier League. If you look at the records and the stats and the facts, not many. There's some of these players. I mean, Harry Kane the other week was getting questioned. I'm looking at him and think, wow, if you're getting questioned for the level he's at, it's fair to say players maybe not the level he's at get questioned. And if Chris Wood's getting questioned about himself, I still think he's a very good finisher. I did say recently that the stats start coming towards you, of course, as a centre forward. As long as you're getting in the right areas, you will score goals. I believe him and our centre forwards, our other centre forwards, can score goals. So I think the stats come back towards you, but you've got to go and make it happen. The players that make a difference over careers are the ones that go and make it happen. They don't wait for it to happen. And it's something that I preach here a lot to the players. It's down to us to make things happen. And I think he showed that with the intent of his goal against Brentford. But he's not been far away himself, the same as the team. But I'm pleased he got a goal because he deserves it for his continued work ethic and continued belief in being a centre forward who can score goals.
Happy. Sean, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Becky. We've got to Daniel, Radio Lanks.
Good afternoon.
Right, Beardy. There's a very Jay Rodriguez-esque haircut when I turn to the side there. Sort of the Elephant Man and Jay Rodriguez.
I think haircut would be a strong word, wouldn't it?
Well, hairstyle, sorry. That's a fair point. It's a fair point well made.
Okay. I just wanted to pick up on the Nick Pope thing from earlier. Competition for international recognition, England goalkeepers, there's a few coming to the fore. Does he need to have a sort of consistent spell of really good performances to get himself back in that equation? And there was a time, of course, that he was knocking on the door for number one for his country.
Very unfortunate with an injury, but it was one that needed doing, and he knew that. Very pleased that he's come through that and looking very sharp. I think what his main focus is keep playing well. I think, players, of course, think about the bigger picture of their careers, and it's inevitable, and their agents and family members, sometimes friends. But the main focus is what you're doing on a daily basis, what you're doing in the games, and the next game is the most important. I preach that all the time to the players. And I think he's doing that. I think he's just focusing on day-to-day, getting sharper, getting his reflexes sharpening, and his all-round game sharpening. I think that's showing now in the good work with Billy Mercer and the goalkeeping unit, and good that he's activating in games because he does look very, very sharp and they're playing very well.
I also wanted to ask you about management. You had another milestone. We won't go into talking about your time at Burnley and memories and all that stuff again after all these years. But do you think that management is becoming harder? The lifespan of a manager is getting shorter, because I think 4 managers have left their job in the Premier League and the Football League this month, and it's the 4th.
Well, the witching season, literally, this time of the year. But on the other hand, Neil Warnock, incredible. As he described himself, Marmite, but incredible what he's achieved with his numbers the other day. And people forget that's his main numbers. He's also been managing non-league many before that. David Moyes going to hit his 1,000th game, which I messaged him this morning. Fantastic. I just think my respect for the managers is enormous. But when you've been doing it for 1,000 games, I think that's off the scale, personally, in the modern game, in the modern era of football. For myself, I just keep cracking on. You take a few knocks, you take the good news, and you make sense of it. The thirst and the desire to continue working and to keep pushing your levels as well as all around you, then that keeps you hungry and it keeps that desire there to keep being successful, or successful as people can deem in our job, which is sometimes tricky itself. Not just literal thoughts on success, actual success, and the impression people have of success can vary radically between clubs. So there are a lot more challenges for managers. The older managers do tell us young managers that as well. They actually tell you, they go, I think starting out now would be more difficult than when they were starting out. But it is what it is. It's normalised to us, the managers around this area. It's all the varied media, the social media. It's a new normal for managers at the moment. But people have seen it differently down the years. They reflect on it and think it is tougher. This era and this generation of managers, certainly over the last 5 years when I've spoken to them about it, some of the more mature and experienced managers than myself.
I know you've spoken in the past about your relationship with the previous ownership and obviously the new ownership now, and you've been able to have this amount of time at the club and they've had faith and you've had faith in them and, you know, vice versa. Have there been times in your Burnley career where you've thought to yourself, if I was at another club, if I was working under different owners, I could be in bother here?
Not really. We didn't really have the spells or certainly not internally. Of course, when I was first there, I've mentioned it on varying times. You know, I was getting a bit of heat then. I knew what we were trying to do inside the camp, and the strategy from in the camp wasn't seen as much through the fans. So I got a bit of heat then. But the board were always, you know, very calm about that situation. I think probably before we had the 23 undefeated to win it, I just sort of dropped that in. I think that season there, we were going into Christmas, we lost at Hull. I think there was a few noises of discontent then. I think there was a bit of, you know, angle, a bit of pressure. Yeah, again, not from inside, I must say, but from outside, a little bit of heat coming on from noises around the club. Other than that, I must say, I think that the people of Burnley have been very generous to me, you know, as a manager and as a person when I see them around. So there's hopefully a mutual respect there that probably allows me a little bit more leeway. You never get as much as you'd like as a manager because people want, and that's the way football works, you know. But I think I get a little bit more leeway from outside the camp, as in fans, and sometimes the media, not always, and probably a little bit more strength inside because of my years of service and record here. So I think so far it's a so good situation. You know, I've got a good relationship with the old boy and I've got a good relationship with this one.
You mentioned David Moyes earlier. He obviously started managing as a player manager relatively young. You started relatively young yourself. You've done 9 years at one club. Can you see yourself, even though you've said in the past you don't want to be a manager when you're 70, but could you see yourself kind of totting up those kind of numbers just from consistently being in work?
I can see myself staying at work a while, but the point I've made is when you're talking about latter life sometimes. Now, it depends, you know, joking apart, I do joke about it, but there is a serious edge to it, by the way, about, you know, you won't see me managing at 65 and all that. But it does depend on how you feel. You know, I've spoken to a lot of managers and they just still have the desire, still have the thirst, still have the edge it takes. So maybe I'll get to them ages and I actually will still have that real edge and real desire for it. Maybe I won't. So I've got to wait and see. So, you know, I do project that I probably won't, but that's not just because of the game, though. In fact, it's nothing to do with the game or the players. It's to do with what's involved in the game. You know, the way that's in heightened the expectation, the feel, sometimes not always a lack of reality. You know, and I'm not sure whether I buy into that for, you know, till I'm, well, goodness knows what age. But if you've got the thirst and desire and you see through all that and you get on with the game, you go Roy Hodgson, Harry Redknapp, you know, these kind of people, they just kept going because they enjoyed it, they had a thirst for it, they felt they could offer something. So if I had that, maybe I'd change my mind. But at this moment, can't see that. Can't see me going until I'm, you know, 65, 68, 70, 72 and all that kind of stuff.
As far as the game's concerned, I think it's pretty well accepted that in the Premier League, there's a group of clubs that are a different proposition. Those top clubs, Chelsea are one of them.
Yeah.
There'll be very little in terms of external expectation on you going into this game. Is it really important, though, regardless of the result, that you do what you've been doing lately and get that standard of performance that you can take forward?
I think it's vital against these teams because, you know, there is a gap between playing like sort of minded teams like ourselves compared to the superpower teams, especially when they're going well, of course, which Chelsea are. Can it be done? Yes, we've experienced that in the past and we've delivered performances that can win against these teams, but it is tough. You're right, you know, we're concentrating on the mentality. I know people on the outside, you know, they don't give you a chance, but our mentality inside gives us a chance, that's for sure. You know, we're thinking nothing other of how we can work as a team to get the game, that being a win as a start point. Not that easy, of course. If you can't get a win, you get a draw. And if you can't, then you're looking for performance levels that will in another game. So I think we're open-minded about that side of things. But our demand inside the camp is still to go there and perform to win. It just doesn't make it easy when you're playing them sides.
And when you're analysing a team like that and going through their strengths and the personnel that they've got, can you sometimes make it feel like an insurmountable task? Have you got to be careful that you don't emphasise those positive things about an opposition like this too much?
You probably have got to be, but not so much here because obviously we've worked here for a long time. We've worked with the group a long time. We've all become more rounded in the Premier League and what it is. So, you know, I think we give the players enough. I think they're aware of the opposition. You've got to remember that nowadays the coverage is so huge and so vast. a lot of the players have a really strong feel about what their opposition are like, what players are like, and their experiences of playing against them. We just reinforce some of the obvious things sometimes, some of the simple things, and sometimes actually strip it all back from the minutiae and go, right, this is the very generalised view, format, it's about what we do. So there's always a balance in any game, and we find that balance the best we can before the game to give them the information, but still give them the information about us and the reminder about us as well and what we're doing.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Phil Medlicott, Press Association.
Sean, we've talked about a couple of your attackers there, Chris Wood and Maxwell Corner. I was just going to ask about Jay Rodriguez. I mean, he didn't get off the bench the weekend, out of contract at the end of the season. Can you just talk about the extent to which he's still an important player within the array of attackers that you have? And do you sort of envisage getting into contract talks with him at some point soon before long?
All the players here are important. That's without a shadow. The idea of contracts, we're very open-minded about contract situations. It takes a little bit more time amongst the new board as well, and they're sorting out a lot of this football club, not just contracts. There's a lot going on, a lot of changes they're looking to make in the way the club runs. But Jay's a very, very good player. We know him. We know his history here, of course, as well. Very unfortunate, by the way. Banged 4 in, and there's every chance he's going to start the next game and got injured on the Friday. So it's very unfortunate. But that's sometimes football. But he's fit and ready. I just actually spoke to him in the week. He's training very, very well. He's looked really sharp and fit. So, yeah, he's ready.
Thanks, Phil. Alex James, please.
Afternoon, Sean.
Hiya.
We touched on earlier that success you had at Chelsea on the opening day of the 2017-18 season, it would have been, wouldn't it? And I think you've spoken before about how that sort of set the standard for that memorable year in the Europa League campaign that followed. Can sort of repeating the trick this weekend, as difficult as it'll be, have a similar catalyst this time around in terms of backing up that Brentford win and kicking on a little bit?
Yeah, I'm not sure it set the scene for a season. I don't think it was that easy and set a whole season off one game. But I think, it was a very good result. I've said this many times, and I'll say again that you have to perform well. That has to be a marker. Sometimes you need things that go for you. And that day, there was a couple of big decisions went our way. They were correct decisions, but they still went our way. We did perform very well. And we got, what ended up being a deserved win, albeit with all the odd circumstances. That did give us a platform to keep building on, that's for sure. But I think the platform's there. It's adding to the detail that I've been talking about. We did that very well against Brentford. With all due respect, Brentford aren't Chelsea at the moment, but they did go down to Chelsea and delivered a very strong performance. Against Chelsea, delivered a very strong performance. So, it shows you that you can take on these things, but you do need the things to go, some of the things to rub the right way for you. And certainly the marker that we look to give to any game is our performance. So that's one of the key things. Start with that, and then we'll see what else comes our way.
Just looking at that bench on Saturday, and you've got pretty much, as you said, nearly everybody fit now. Is this squad sort of where you want it now in terms of depth, given what you've been able to do in the summer and the competition for places you now have?
I think it's certainly a lot closer than it was. We knew we needed competitive players in, and I think we've done that. I think that's shown. Obviously, Connor's still, maturing into the group. I thought he performed well in the game that he played, and Nathan's come in and done well. And obviously, Wayne came in and had a very strong performance up at Newcastle. Maxwell's done well as well. So I think that's a good platform to keep building on. Good for the group and the competitive element. So, yeah, a lot of good in that, and we'll see where it takes us. Still a lot of hard work to do, but I think there are strong signs that this group's getting stronger as a unit and what we look for them to achieve.
Yeah, we touched on contracts earlier, and I know that's obviously a difficult situation to manage. 6 or 7 players are out of contract, and we're still early in the season. But I guess the key is to, as you say, use that as a platform and not get to a situation where 3, 4, 5 are leaving and you're having to rebuild each summer. It's about adding rather than always replacing, I suppose.
I mean, they're not always tricky situations. At any given year, there's contracts up. So, we talk with them, we keep their open minds. And like I say, Alan and the guys here are all aware, obviously. So that's an ongoing process. Within that, the idea of different contract stages rather than having lots up in one place is helpful, I think. If you get different stages of players and what their contracts are and how long they run for. Certainly the continuity rather than having a stage when there are lots out. But we manage whatever's needed. At the minute, there's a few out of them this season. We'll look at them accordingly. And then as the months go by, we'll see what's needed to continue forward.
And just lastly from me, and Maxwell is dominating a lot of the talk at the moment, partly because we ask about 5 questions every week about him, but he still hasn't played, I don't think, 90 minutes in the Premier League yet. He's had a couple of sort of positional changes. Do you sort of see more to come from him once he's fully integrated into the squad a little bit? And does the international break, and I'm not sure if he's going away this month with the Ivory Coast, I'm not sure if that's been announced yet, but does that mean it takes it a little bit longer to get him up to speed on all aspects of things, given he's been away a couple of times with the Ivory Coast?
I think he can do. I mean, like I said, he's a fit lad in general, but the Premier League, it's not just fitness how you imagine, just covering the miles. It's also the sharpness, the mental sharpness. The transitions in Premier League are very quick, and sort of observing, learning and feeling your way through that. Also, his language is improving. I mean, that's going to take a bit of time, but he is getting better. So that's helpful. And culturally as well, just, learning about life in England, learning about living in the North, all these things. They're all in the melting pot. But he's certainly made a good show of himself so far on behalf of the team as well. We want that to continue. I think he's enjoying the challenge of wherever we play him, actually. He does play with a smile on his face. He does play with that enjoyable element to what his trains the same. I think he enjoys his training, enjoys what we're about so far. We want that to continue. So we'll try our best to facilitate that while he's affecting himself and he's self-learning of what's going on in the Premier League, but also the team. And he's done that nicely at the minute.
Does he practice clapping the fans in training, Sean? Or
it looks like it. The amount he did last week, but don't worry, we'll knock that out as soon as we can.
Nice one. Thanks, Sean. All the best for Saturday.
Thanks, Alex. Great. I think we'll move into the written embargo section now. You can get the cameras off, please.